VA back pay. You may be wondering, how does it work? Why your back pay was maybe not as big as you expected, and why some conditions just don't go back to your intent to file date at all. I'm going to break that down in this live stream for you. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this out with someone that can use this information, and thank you for your service to our country. I am a veteran, serving veterans to put you in the best position to win your claim. Let's dive in. What is VA back pay? VA back pay is the money that the VA owes you from the date that they determine you should have been receiving VA disability benefits until the date that they finally approve your claim. Think of it like the VA saying back pay is based on two things: your effective date, your final rating date. Okay. Basically, they're saying we should have been paying you earlier. Here's every single thing that we owe you. Okay. The effective date is everything, right? Your back pay is based on these two things: your effective date and your final rating date. So, what determines your effective date? Most veterans think the effective date is always the intent to file date. If you think that, you're wrong. That's not always true. Your effective date is usually the later of the following. Number one is the date that you actually filed your claim. So let's say it is a new condition, or you are secondary in a new condition, and you have a intent to file in from March of 2025. Well, right now, the making of this live stream is November 17th, 2025. Let's say you've never filed for migraine headache secondary to your tinnitus. Guess when your intent to guess what? Guess when your effective date is going to be? The day that the VA received the VA disability claim, the date that you filed the claim, even though you have an intent to file since March of 2025. It is a new condition, right? Or your effective date can be, for your back pay, the date the VA received evidence proving the condition existed or was connected. So if you filed a secondary claim and it was in November 2025, but the DA, but you gave the VA evidence, or the VA did have evidence and you know about it, proving that your headache condition existed or was connected prior to a later date, then let's call it November 2025, you can argue against that back date and say, hey, you guys knew that my headaches were a cause of this before, and you can argue for that. Okay. You can argue with that. That can be to your upper hand. You may need to do a higher level review to do that. Okay. This is key to understanding why some conditions get full back pay and others do not. Veterans, very, very important. So the effective date is usually the later of the following: the date you filed the claim, or the date the VA received evidence proving the condition existed or was actually service connected. Okay. So why not all conditions? Why are they not all going back to the intent to file date? Here are the top reasons. Okay. Number one, the condition that you're claiming was not claimed until later. Okay. Even if you find, or even if you know that you had an intent to file open, the VA only back pays conditions that were actually submitted within that window. So let me give you an example. You did an intent to file in January of 2023. You filed PTSD, back pain. Let's say you filed tinnitus in March of 2023. You forget to add, let's call it migraines, until December 2023. Okay. Your PTSD, your back pain, and tinnitus, you'll get back paid to January 2023. Okay. Your intent to file. You should. Okay. Your migraines, the effective date becomes December 2023. Why? Because you forgot to add the migraines until December 2023. And sometimes the VA will take a mental health claim, such as the PTSD claim, and they'll back pay you for that condition from the day that they actually receive the VA disability claim. So the day that you actually filed the claim. So maybe you have an intent to file in January of 2023. You don't file until May of 2023. Sometimes they'll only back pay that PTSD or that mental health claim to the day that they received that claim. If they did, and you have an intent to file on hand since January 2023, do a higher level review, question them on that, try to get back paid to January 2023. Okay. So the intent to file, I want to be perfectly clear here, does not cover conditions added after the claim is submitted. Okay. So again, if you forgot to add migraines or forgot to mention that until December 2023, that effective date, even though you had an intent to file in January 2023, the effective date becomes December 2023, veterans. Okay. The VA sometimes also, number 2 here, says that your evidence didn't show the condition until a later or latter date. Okay. 4, service connection. The VA needs a current diagnosis, an in-service event, a medical nexus, right? Linking, linking what you're claiming to your service. Okay. If the diagnosis or the nexus did not exist until later, then the VA uses the date that the evidence was received. So, example, you file for depression in 2022, veterans, but you didn't get an actual diagnosis until a C&P exam, a compensation and pension exam in 2023. The VA can legally assign 2023 as the effective date. Okay. You can try to do a higher level review to get that back paid to 2022 when you filed for the depression. However, the VA can legally assign 2023 as the effective date. Okay. Number 3. Okay. Here is a reason why not all conditions go back to the intent to file date. Okay, number 3, increased claims use the date the worsening was first shown. Okay, for increased rating claims, the effective date is when the increase is factually shown. They can factually see it, not when you filed the claim. Okay, so an example. You filed for an increased back rating in 2024. Your worsening is not documented clinically until 2025. The Department of Veterans Affairs may give you a 2025 effective date. Okay. Also, sometimes the VA says there was no formal or intent to file on record. Sometimes the intent to file expires, right? One intent to file is all that you need to file in that last 12 months. And that's basically you saying, you letting the VA know, hey, I intend to file a claim. And the VA says, okay, you've got 12 months to file your claim, right? Or sometimes the wrong form was used, okay, and you just didn't know. Or sometimes the veteran submits a statement instead of a claim, okay? Very, very important to understand that. If there is no valid intent to file on hand, then that can equal no early back pay, okay? Number 5, I'd like to mention this as well too. Supplemental claims do not go back to the original date. A lot of veterans expect that if they were denied years ago, filing a supplemental claim gives them back pay to the old claim. That is not true. Unfortunately, it does not. Some supplemental claims get an effective date based on the date you file the supplemental claim. So if you get denied, let's call it November 17th, 2025, and that's your rating decision date. You got a year to file to do an appeal to provide new and relevant evidence on a supplemental claim. You've got till November 17th, 2026, a full year. Make sure that you file that claim. If you file that supplemental claim within the year time frame from today's date to November 17th, 2026, if you file it within that year, then you could get back paid to today's date, okay? But you got to make sure that you file that supplemental claim in a timely manner and before that year time frame, okay? So supplemental claims get an effective date based on the date you file the claim, unless you submit new and relevant evidence within 1 year of a denial. So let's say you got denied in 2020, November 17, 2020. Okay, that's today's date. Let's say it's 5 years ago. November 17, 2020, you get denied. That's your rating decision date. You come back, you do a higher level review. You don't get seen till another year later, November 17, 2021. They deny you again. Then you come back and you file a supplemental claim. They deny you again. You file a higher level review. They deny you again. You file another supplemental claim. Now we're in November 2024. And then 2025, you find out, right? You call me and you find out that, oh man, there's some evidence that I actually was missing. And then I tell you that. And then we get you, we put you in the best position to get the evidence that you need, and then you file it before November 17, 2025, or at least by today's date, and then you get approved. Well, you can get back paid all the way to November 17, 2020. Okay. You've got to keep fighting. You don't give up. You file an appeal. You can file as many supplemental claims as you want. Okay. There is a limit to the higher level reviews. So if you get denied, if it's a duty to assist error, do the higher level review. Okay. If they clearly missed evidence, and remember, they have a duty to assist you. If you're missing a nexus opinion or medical evidence that's needed, or continuity of care or something of that nature, and you need to provide new and relevant evidence, file that supplemental claim. But make sure you're fighting within a year of the denial from the rating decision letter. Okay. Do it within a year. Keep fighting that. And then, yes, you can get back paid to that original date that you submitted the claim. Okay. The day that they received the claim, you can get it. You just got to make sure that you file within a year of a denial. Okay. So very important. Supplemental claims get an effective date based on the date you file the supplemental claim, unless you submit new and relevant evidence within the 1 year of a denial. I hope that all made sense to you. Only then can it preserve the original effective date. And in my explanation, today's November 17, 2025. I was going back to November 17, 2020. Okay. There are special cases where back pay can go back earlier. Okay. Some exceptions do benefit you and us as the veteran. Number one is a Q error, a clear and unmistakable error. If VA made legal administrative error, your effective date can go back years or decades. All right. Number two is the 5, 10, and 20-year rules. These don't affect back pay directly, but veterans, they protect long-standing ratings. Okay. Number three is newly presumptive conditions. When the VA adds new presumptive conditions, Gulf War, PACT Act, Agent Orange, etc., effective dates can sometimes go back to the original claim, depending on, however, depending on regulations. Okay. So when VA adds new presumptive conditions, you could potentially get back paid to the original claim, depending on regulations. Okay. So why do veterans think they get cheated on, or that maybe it's you? Maybe I got cheated on back pay. Why are you thinking that? Here's the common misunderstandings that I see a lot of. I thought all my conditions go back to my intent to file. No, only the ones submitted during that intent to file window, depending on the type of claim as well too. Okay. Some people say, my migraine should go back to the military. VA law says the effective date is the date of claim, not date you first developed it. Okay. Some people say the VA lowly rated me, or they just messed me over on my effective date. Often it is tied to diagnosis date or worsening date, not claim date. Okay. Remember that. Sometimes you may feel my effective date is wrong, but often it is tied to diagnosis date. When did you get diagnosed? Or worsening date of whatever condition you're filing for, not the claim date, right? The VA, they only back paid one condition, not the others. This is a common misconception. This happens when conditions were added later or maybe diagnosed later as well. Okay, so how do you protect yourself and get your full back pay, right? Always file an intent to file before gathering evidence. Secure your earliest date. Submit all conditions if you can at the same time. Okay. Avoid staggered effective dates. Be strategic on what you're doing. Go the least path resistant. Know what you're filing. Know where you're trying to go to. Know what conditions can get you where you're going as you're trying to navigate all this. Okay. Make sure that you have a current diagnosis before filing. definitely within the last 12 months. It behooves you to do that. Prevent delayed dates. Keep a record of symptoms and worsening. You're your best advocate. This helps increase claims. Okay. Use supplemental claims. File those within 1 year of a denial. That preserves the original date. It's very, very important to understand that, veterans. Okay. Also, presumptive service connection claims for presumptive conditions, your Agent Orange. The effective date is the claim it is the claim date or the diagnosis date, whichever is later. The claim date or the diagnosis date, whichever is later. Okay. So again, if a Vietnam veteran diagnosed with hypertension in 2020 files a claim in 2022, the effective date is 2022, unless, however, evidence proves earlier diagnosis and filing within 1 year. For PACT Act claims filed before August 10th, 2023, back pay dates to August 10th, 2022. For claims after, back pay starts from the filing date. So, another example, Vietnam veteran, okay, or a PACT Act claim, a veteran files a PACT Act claim for hypertension, and let's call it July 2023. Back pay starts on August 10th, 2022, when the PACT Act became law. Okay. Higher level review claims, when you request a higher level review, the effective date remains the original filing date and no new back pay is generated. So, if you filed in 2020, let's say you get denied and you request a higher level review in 2022, if approved, back pay could be calculated from 2020, but make sure that you are fighting that within a year and doing that higher level review within a year time frame of your denial date. For supplemental claims, the effective date is the date the claim is filed or when entitlement arose. So if you have a claim in for headaches or migraines and it was denied in 2017, in 2023, maybe you submit a supplemental claim with new and relevant evidence. The back pay begins in 2023 unless the new evidence proves an earlier onset or unless you continually fight within a year of denial. Okay. For Board of Veterans Appeals claims, if a claim is appealed to the BVA and granted, the effective date stays the same, and back pay is calculated from the original claim date. So let's say a veteran files for hearing loss in 2018, you get denied, you appeal. In 2023, the Board of Veterans Appeals grants the appeal. Back pay starts in 2018. Very, very, very important to understand that. Aid and attendance claims. For aid and attendance or housebound benefits, the effective date is when the need for assistance arose or the claim filing date. So whenever you filed the claim or you needed aid and attendance, whenever the assistance arose. So an example is that veteran becomes eligible for aid and attendance in July 2021, but files the claim in January 2022. Back pay starts from July 2021 if evidence supports it. Okay. Very important. Okay. Very important on what you're filing. Very important knowing how back pay works. Okay. Um, Very, very important. To speed up your back pay claim, I want to talk about that. Navigating the VA claims process can be daunting sometimes. While patience is crucial, be proactive, do steps. There are steps that you can take to minimize delays and ensure that everything moves in a timely manner and as smoothly as possible. Okay. Try to be patient, file an intent to file ASAP, submit a fully developed claim online. The fully developed claim program allows you to fast track your claim by submitting all necessary medical evidence and documentation up front. If you need help with that, reach out to us. We are here for you. We want you to be in the best position, honestly, integrally, and ethically. Okay. Fully developed claims. Make sure you know what's in there. Don't just throw the kitchen sink at the VA. By eliminating the need for the VA to gather additional information, you are helping to actually speed up the decision process. Okay. Submitting a fully developed claim through va.gov is one of the best ways to reduce delays. So you're being proactive, not reactive. The more complete your initial submission is with the right medical evidence, the faster your claim can be processed. Track your claim status regularly. Don't over obsess about it every single day, but regularly monitor your claim through va.gov. download the VA app on the App Store or the Play Store on your phone. Log online if you have a web browser to va.gov. Make sure you understand how to navigate that. Very important. You can even call the VA. You can even do a Vera call as well too, to address and to stay on top of the status of your claim. Okay, if there are any issues or requests for additional information, you can address them quickly if you're proactive. Prompt responses can make the difference between a delay and a smooth processing. Set reminders for yourself to check in on your claim's progress and ensure that it keeps moving forward one step at a time. Ensure your personal information, your banking information is accurate. Respond to VA requests quickly and make sure that you don't give up. For most veterans, back pay is received within 15 to 45 business days of your claim approval. So pretty quick. Usually it's within 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. However, various factors, including the complexity of your claim, appeals, DFAS audit if you're a retired veteran, and or issues with your direct deposit information can extend this timeline. Make sure everything that you have, all your personal information and everything, is up to date. If you're experiencing delays, contact the VA. Seek help. Get the right help. It's so important that you don't just throw the kitchen sink at the VA. Know what you're doing, get the help. These benefits are for life, right? Make sure you're being treated fairly. Make sure what you're doing is honest, integral, ethical, and you have nothing to worry about. Be in the best position to win your claim, veterans. So that's the real truth about why some of your conditions go back to your intent to file date and others do not. Okay. So just because you put an intent to file, don't be surprised if some of the claims don't go back all the way to that intent to file date. Okay. It's important to file that though. And what that intent to file is doing is letting the VA know, hey, I plan to file a claim, and the VA is saying, cool, you got a year to gather your evidence and get your claims in. Okay. The VA follows strict effective date laws. Important for you to understand. And if you understand these rules, you'll know exactly what to expect and you'll know exactly how to protect yourself from losing thousands in back pay. If you think that you got cheated out of back pay, do a higher level review, find out, question, address your concerns, be respectful when doing so, and just ask. The worst thing they can do is say no, or they can explain it to you, right? If this episode helped you out, share it with another veteran. Drop a comment. We are veterans serving veterans. Hit that follow button for more VA benefits breakdowns. We're going to keep information coming up to date, accurate, but stay informed, stay in the fight. Don't give up. Don't quit. You're your best advocate. And as always, thank you. Thank you so much for your service to our country. If you need something, reach out 904-605-0431 or info@veteransclaimservice.com. We care about you. We are veterans serving veterans. Let's go. Stay in the fight. Don't give up. Keep going.